is a Variety Sports Network production. Now to your host.
Man, at some point this show is going to be fun. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Hopefully you all had a better Sunday than some of us NFL football fans out there. This is Talkin The Gridiron, the exclusive NFL show here on the Variety Sports Network. I am joined once again by Fat Boy Fadeaway Sports Podcast, Daren and Tyler. So good evening, guys. Glad we're all here. We could all commiserate together because even though one of us got a win, it still wasn't pretty. So, Daren, how are you feeling after week 2? And then we'll get Tyler's thoughts here after losing the future of his franchise for a portion of his season. So, how are you feeling, Daren?
Well, I mean, as a Raiders fan, I mean, you can't get punched in the gut any more than that. I mean, as a Raiders fan, I will say this: I have built up many calluses. So this isn't like a numb feeling. I'm not, unfortunately for people out there, this may be not even a top 10. This might not even be top 10 in the last 20 years. But I will say this: I am pissed. I am looking forward to talking to you gentlemen and getting off some of the frustrations off our chests. Maybe some Jimmy going over some bad defensive efforts here.
It was rough. I mean, from the start all the way through the end. I know some fans are probably really, really excited about how today's games went. But as a Bengals fan, as a Raiders fan, yeah, I totally get it. You lost to Kyler Murray on a double XP weekend. I don't know if you knew that, but it was double XP on Call of Duty and like a limited edition map before they send out the new game. So he came back on you. I don't know what to say.
Caught fire in the fourth quarter.
I mean, what was the one play he was running around for like 80 seconds? My goodness.
It was a 2-point conversion. I don't know what you guys were doing, but that was the other thing too. How did your offense go half an hour without seeing the field? They switched over to that game after the end of the bad Broncos game, and they were like, yeah, 30 minutes. Raiders haven't seen the field.
Dude, that was so funny you brought that up because I remember when they showed it during the game that, they sometimes would be like, oh, this team hasn't seen the ball for the last 7 minutes of game clock. They actually used they actually said 7:08 Pacific Standard Time. So that's what I thought. They actually were using real time for it. So I thought that was.
Oh man, Tyler, I don't know if you feel that much better than the rest of us. You did get the victory, so congratulations. You're the only one so far on the Sunday slate of shows that has actually seen their team win. But it still can't feel great with the Trey Lance saga that continues. And now you're back on the Jimmy G train. You tweeted it out. I saw it. I liked it. So how does it feel being back with Jimmy G? Feels a little dirty to me. I don't know.
It doesn't feel right. It feels like we're back, taking a step back. I think the team's actually better. The play calling got better with Jimmy G. It seemed like they opened things up a little bit. The first 15 plays were run plays. I just don't think Shanahan trusted Trey. But as a franchise, we got a little worse today. But as a team, I think we might be a little better for these next 16 games. But it still leaves you with a sour taste because you need to have these years where you develop your future, and you have to. And we're just stuck at where we were the last 3 years.
Injuries have been terrible for the San Francisco 49ers. And before we get into all of the games from week 2, wanted to mention we are presented by the Variety Sports Network. You can go ahead and follow them at variety_sports_. And if you see the ticker scrolling across the bottom, we do have merch, bonfire.com/source-variety-sports-network. And then you can also check out Row One Brand, get a discount VSP15 when you use that code to get 10% off anything and everything in the art gallery. So I think we said we wanted to start chronologically. And that makes sense for Daren, and I live in the AFC West territory. But for Daren, it makes sense because those were two teams that you're going to have to see, and you're going to have to be able to get over the hump to win your division. And Thursday night, even though it wasn't the most pretty performance that we've seen out of Andy Reid's Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes gets it done late, and the defense was the main factor here. The defense that has been much maligned for the last 2 seasons from the Kansas City Chiefs beat up Justin Herbert a little bit, make him uncomfortable, and walk away with a victory when it all seemed lost. At halftime, everybody was just counting the fact that it was the Chargers division and the Kansas City Chiefs were going to go away. Did not happen. But Thursday Night Football, what were some of the takeaways, the biggest news stories that you kind of walked away from? Did it make anybody feel better or worse about having to face the Chiefs possibly further down the road?
Well, you mentioned before, I think in our preview one, that you thought the Chiefs, I think, had potential of running away with the division, and they are showing, that potential. I picked the Chargers to win that game. I just thought the Chargers could pull that out with the defensive rush, and they got off to a good start with it. the Chargers find a way. They just find a way to get it to not. I just find a way to blow it. It just feels like that's like I don't even know how to put it any nicer than that. Then Herbert ends up getting killed on a play over there, and you're worried that he's done for a little bit. And the next thing you know, Mahomes is right down the field again, throwing sidearm bombs, and it's back to Chiefs football again. So, it does have that feeling now that the Raiders are 0-2, and I was feeling all good at the beginning of the season. From that standpoint, to bring it back to a whole to the AFC West. They're not here to mess around this year. I think they're all business this year, and I think in the past they've got off to those slow starts. That obviously won't be the case this year.
Tyler, it's strange how they've kind of manipulated their offensive attack, going from just using Tyreek Hill as the weapon to now everybody's getting involved. Does that maybe show it's been a little bit they're able to find new ways to win, and this team may be even more dangerous than the past 2 seasons when they've been Super Bowl contenders and on the verge of playing in the Super Bowl?
I think it's really showing off Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes' versatility and not needing to rely on one guy. They had 4 guys over 40 yards. Mahomes is just spreading it out. He's still being just as effective with his downfield throws, making big plays. But I like what I saw from the Chargers. They were on the road on a night game, and they should have won. Their coaching will always leave a sour taste in my mouth. But I do like what I saw from the Chargers. The Chiefs are still with Mahomes until you top them, beat them, and take the division from him. You got to give him the respect he deserves.
He is the number 1 quarterback in that division. He proved that. I know that Herbert had a better statistical game, but I would still say the fact that it was Patrick Mahomes leading his team at the end of the game. I know he wasn't helped out by anybody on his team, but Herbert did throw the pick 6 that put the game kind of on the opposite outtake there. And from that point on, it was catch up from Los Angeles, and they lost every single bit of momentum. I actually really enjoyed the Kirk Herbstreit, Al Michaels booth. I don't know what you guys thought about that. It was the first time seeing them two working together, and it was great. They pointed out all the things that I think as a broadcaster you should, and they didn't play into too much of any of the single narratives. I mean, it was a total team win for Kansas City, and the Chargers. Niko likes to say the Chargers are going to charge her. And I said the Raiders rate her harder than the Chargers could ever charge her. But Thursday night pushed that theory to the limit. I would say, I love Justin Herbert, but he's got to get into the point where he's not making these boneheaded mistakes. It can't be good play, terrible play, pick 6, lose your lead, and then go back with a good play. I mean, I think about that where it's 3rd and 1 and he can walk to the first down marker and he just lightly flicks the ball, and then on 4th down and 6 or whatever it was, he throws a dart 2 plays later, 40 yards down the field. It just makes no sense how this Los Angeles Chargers team attacks you, and it's kind of all over the place.
There's some random stat I saw that he leads the league the last couple of years in pick 6s or something like that. Yeah, I mean, that's not interception is going to happen, but obviously those are brutal. So especially a 99-yarder one, that's going to be a killer in any game. So. That was obviously the turning point.
It's strange too because you see on the replay that tight end gave absolutely no effort to even try and run down the pick after it happened. It's part. I mean, you as a coach, I'm blaming him first and foremost, but he was trying to do the right thing, get himself taken out. They just couldn't get a substitution there. Where do you place the blame on that play? Is it Herbert's fault for maybe not throwing it or not realizing that his personnel wasn't going to be in the correct position? Or do you got to put the blame on the guy who didn't run the route and basically gave up the game-winning go-ahead touchdown? I mean, I think you could probably make a case for both, but who's more at fault because Herbert is supposed to be the guy that can lead you through those situations?
I think there's a third guy at hand, and that's the head coach. You're on offense, you dictate the pace. If a guy's calling to come out of the game, you have to make that happen, or at least a quarter. And it's somewhat on Herbert because Herbert has to recognize this guy is gas. I can't really trust him to run any sharp route if he's calling to be taken out of the game. But I put the most the tight end Everett gets the least. Staley gets the most, and then Herbert to me gets it. But effort to tackle him after the pick, I blame more on Everett than the actual route.
Brandon Staley, he kind of seemed like he got a little bit too in his head. After last season, everybody was giving him crap for the way he handled the analytics and the way he went for it on 4th down. And now it seems like he's gone the complete opposite way. And it's maybe to the detriment because there is something to be said. Guys like Jameis Winston, guys like Brandon Staley, they live to be aggressive. And when you tell them, no, don't be aggressive, do play this smart, it's almost like they can't understand it and they absolutely melt down. The fact I will give the Chargers the fact that it was on the road, so you can still split the season series with the Chiefs, so it's not the end of the world. The one stat that I go back to, and I think I mentioned it last week, over the last 2 seasons, the Bengals and the Chargers have the most time up by 20 points and down by 20 points. So they're never right in even keel. Yeah, they're either killing it or it's awful. So I know that there's not many of you all out there, Los Angeles Chargers fans, because even if that game was played in Los Angeles, that's a Kansas City home game. Yeah. I just have to. I have to because there's nothing else that I could say about them. I mean, my team's out of the playoff picture now, too.
I don't know about that.
Well, yeah, let's not
We'll
get
get to that in a bit.
We'll see. We'll try to help you, Tyler. Me and Tyler will try to help you here a little bit.
Yeah. Anything else that we wanted to put out there from Thursday night? I mean, other than the Chiefs having the big defense, I'd say their running game looked pretty solid, too, better than it has in the past. And all of the holes and the loopholes that people have been finding in this Kansas City Chiefs attack seem to be few and far between, and they continue to just mask those holes. So they're putting caulking over everything that they needed to, and they seem ripe and ready for another deep run, in my mind, at least.
I agree.
Yeah, you can never count out a Andy Reid Mahomes-led team, would be my thoughts on that.
Yeah, there's nothing. The pregame buffet, I'm putting my money on Andy Reid. In the middle of the game, I'm putting my money on Patrick Mahomes, all of that stuff. It's just one of those things. You got to prove that you can beat Ric Flair. To beat the man, you got to beat the man. Nobody's beat them since. They've been the AFC West champion, been close to the AFC champion for the past 3 years in a row. So
only your 0-2 Bengals have beat them in the last few things. That's what we got right there. You got there.
Yeah, we keep trying. I don't think that I can. Let's get a game in between talking about my Bengals. And
there we go.
I kind of want to let's talk about the Dolphins, because Mike McDaniel now 2-0 in his Dolphins tenure. And today started off awful. I was glad. I was like, yes, I'm playing Tua. He's already thrown a pick. It's 15 seconds into the game. It's minus 1.7 fantasy points. And then, of course, the week that Niko and I play a team with Tua Tagovailoa as the quarterback, it's the game that he throws a career high in touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, 469 passing yards, two interceptions, and he did get sacked one time. But by far, his best game that he's played in the pros, and I don't think it's relatively close.
No.
But it was too. I mean, they did have to make a comeback in the fourth quarter, and up until that point, it seems it's very Tebow-esque, and that's coming from a guy who lived through the Tebow mania era, like up close and personal. You could barely watch the Miami Dolphins for the first 3 quarters, and then in the fourth quarter, all of a sudden, the other team just forgets how to play football, and it's kind of hilarious to watch.
Yeah, I had Baltimore's defense, and I was like, great, a kick return to start, a pick, let's do this. And then Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, it's a different thing that anybody else has. They're so fast. You have to play so perimeterly to the edges. You can't do anything up the middle, and Mostert can exploit that. He only got 11 carries, and it was pretty good. But Waddle and Hill are going to just be it's Tua for real is my real question. Like, he had this game that was absolutely spectacular. He looked like Steve Young for real.
He did.
Like,
yeah, and he was hitting guys down the field, too. It wasn't dink and dunk, because that was the big knock on him coming out of Alabama and Sarkisian's offense. It was always screen passes, and that's why he was 70% completion percentage in college. And today he was pushing it down the field. And it's hilarious to see Mike McDaniel. He doesn't talk about a guy who doesn't look like he belongs on the sidelines of an NFL franchise. And the shades, the fact that he can barely fit his communication pack around his waist because it's too big, all of that stuff just plays into the whole mystique. I guess it's a good time to be in Miami. So good weather, good football, and now the Dolphins are number 1 in the AFC, or tied for number 1 in the AFC East. I'm not going to say they're the best team in that division because we all know who that giant that's looming over there, 6'5" Wyoming giant.
Yeah, and that will be an interesting game next week. Obviously, looking ahead there early, but I think the Dolphins. It's hard to buy into that. For me, it's hard to buy into a team when you're down by 24-2 like that. You know what I mean? Like kind of like my theory with like the Cardinals too today with them. There's moments where we've all played sports. When you're losing like that, there is a freedom that comes with that as well at times, and you start to get a little momentum. the other team is on their heels, and that's just kind of what it felt like. And the Ravens defense, I mean, they collapsed on an all. I mean, there was guys wide. They were that one to Hill. I mean, they were just making boneheaded mistakes. If you're a defensive coordinator there, you cannot be sleeping well today.
That's the thing. Why are you blitzing the middle linebacker and the safety when you know that you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on the offense?
You better
damn giving up. Yeah, you're giving up. You use your two fastest players, in Patrick Queen and Kyle Hamilton, to try and get to the quarterback. Neither of them got home, and then Tyreek Hill was just open, so that when he does catch it, it's a house call, or at least 40 yards down the field. And also, how does Jalen Waddle catch the go-ahead, the pass that ended up winning that game? That was completely defended, yet it just didn't finish. Like, the Ravens did not finish, and I was glad to see it because it helps out my team's case a little bit later on in the season, hopefully.
But how about Lamar Jackson?
Showed a lot. Yeah, I was gonna say the Ravens showed a lot. Like that big touchdown to Rashad Bateman, they should have won this game. They did everything they needed to, and I honestly thought that they gave Lamar Jackson too much time.
I'll be honest. I think of Lamar Jackson a little bit more because, like I said, like now that I've talked to you, I know that you kind of were a critic of him a little bit, and that's understanding. I'm the same way, or I know Tyler's the same way at times.
I'm a critic for sure.
But the thing today is he couldn't finish the job. That's part of the job as the quarterback. But it's hard when you score 35 points to 28 of them on offense from that point. So I thought he was still really good for the Ravens, and that's really important. I mean, he's trying to play for that contract. I don't. If he plays like that, the Ravens are going to be a much harder team, though. I mean, you figure for the most part their defense won't play that bad, but Miami, I still got to see more. I still got to see more from Tua. I got to see more from him.
I think that's fair. I mean, it's still like we said, that was his best game. That's the only time that he's looked that competent in the NFL and that comfortable. I mean, he was unreal. He was. That was the Tua that won the national championship as a freshman.
6 touchdowns, 469 yards. Are you kidding? Those are college numbers.
When you can make up for 2 interceptions in the NFL level, you've done something right. Yeah. We're not even. That's not what you lead off with. You lead off with the fact that he drew 6 touchdowns and got his team. Yes, it took them until the fourth quarter to make the comeback, but they still made the comeback in the fourth quarter. That's all I'm going to say. 28-3 in the final 15 minutes of the game. Yeah, you deserve to win that one. And Tyreek Hill is still one of the most difficult human beings on the planet.
He's a freak
when it comes to football. It just doesn't matter for Tyreek Hill. Next
the
game
thing with Tua.
Yeah, go ahead, Tyler.
It was against a good secondary. Like Marcus Williams is an all-pro, a Pro Bowler at least. Marcus Peters is more reputation at this point probably, but Marlon Humphrey and their other safety, who you mentioned earlier from Hamilton, are all good players, and they put up these numbers, which made it more impressive for me. And Baltimore's, even when they have a bad defense, it normally is still athletic and it's fast. So I was very impressed. I do want to see a little more when it comes to Tua though.
Yeah, like I said, they're not anointed as the team in the East. I think that they're gonna compete, and I think they maybe have a chance to even be out of in the hunt graphic. They'll win the wild card spot. They'll be one of the first teams to clinch a wild card spot. But it is still there's a long way to go, and they fell apart towards the end of the season. They had a chance to make the playoffs last year and couldn't get things done, just like the Indianapolis Colts, which could be. I guess that's a good segue to go into that game because that was my defense, and they gave me 0 points, and they played an entire game. It's not like in week 1, I talked about it on our show on the far end of the bench with Devontae Smith. He wasn't even playing. He was injured. They didn't play him at all, so I got a 0. I got a 0 from the Indianapolis Colts defense in a spot where I was thinking, okay, they'll probably get a couple picks. Trevor Lawrence is overhyped at this point. He's not ready to take that next step. Something's wrong in Indianapolis. And I wish Josh would have come on from Variety Sports because I know he's one of the only Colts fans that I do know of. Frank Reich needs to figure out what's going wrong and figure it out fast. Matt Ryan hasn't gelled so far with that Colts offense. Jonathan Taylor couldn't get anything done today. And that defense, I mean, how do you let the Jacksonville Jaguars, of all teams, do that to you on offense? Christian Kirk, who had been basically almost dead and gone for the last 2 years in Arizona as the third option, has 2 touchdowns on you, and you put up absolutely no fight against the team that people were saying you should That was going to be your bounce back. You had the bad tie last week. You're going to get a bounce back, and you have now lost or tied the two worst teams in your division. You're not even playing the team that everybody was projecting you to have to compete with for the division title. So what's the issue with Indianapolis? What's going on with them?
Can I ask this is an out of control question, but is Matt Ryan done? Is he not good anymore? I'm not. Is that too far? Am I crossing a line with that statement? Am I offending Matt Ryan lovers or something like that? Is this going too far? He got traded for a reason. He was through 3 picks. I know he played well last week, but he kind of more played well just because they had to come back again, and he was throwing a little bit late. Another thing for me, they scored 0 points. That's not good. And then defensively, Lawrence, he threw 5 incompletions. Man, he looked like the number 1 pick today. And then Cameron Kirk, I've been ripping on him all offseason just because of the terrible contract that I thought. But he obviously slapped me in the face. He must have been watching my podcast. No, I'm just kidding. But I just thought, I don't know. That's my thing. Is Matt Ryan? Am I jumping the gun on that? Maybe is there a world where he's not done anymore?
There's no reason Jonathan Taylor should ever have 9 carries, and especially when he's averaging 6 per carry. Give him the damn ball. Michael Pittman's out. He's not even your best threat on the outside's out. And then your best defender in Darius Leonard or Shaq Leonard, whatever he wants to be called nowadays, was out too. So I understand losing maybe a close game, but Jacksonville just owns the Colts. The last 8 games on the road, the Colts are 0-8, I think.
Yeah.
So the question is, can Matt Ryan bounce? Is he going to be Carson Wentz, or is he going to be prime Matt Ryan? I think he's closer to the Carson Wentz from last year than he is to being an All-Pro.
It's tough because we've been talking about so much how this is the best quarterback that the Colts have had in this last 3-year window that they made the playoffs with, since Andrew Luck, pretty much, with Brissett and then Rivers and now Wentz and Ryan. I was trying to give Matt Ryan the benefit of the doubt and a lot of credit going into the season because I've heard the stories. He and Kyle Shanahan created quarterback footwork from the shotgun. They were the ones that kind of installed the West Coast offense from the shotgun, and that was the year that they went to the Super Bowl and the 28-3. That's my thing, is that the team is cursed. Everybody talks about Atlanta, and they almost were able to come back and reverse the jinx today. But honestly, I think some of those players are still cursed, and Matt Ryan's one of those guys. Him and Kyle Shanahan, really, when they get to the point where they're going to take the next step forward, it's like it totally.
They do have a little
apart.
black cat around them.
It's bad. It's terrible. I wish it wasn't there, but you can't tell me last year's NFC Championship, the 49ers have every right to win that game, and they don't. The Super Bowl, they're winning 10 points with about 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and they don't. And it comes down to, I don't know if Frank Reich has the trust in Matt Ryan. I don't think that Kyle Shanahan had the trust in his quarterbacks in those situations. And now when your coach doesn't trust you and you don't necessarily trust the weapons that you have around you, I don't know. It might be a little early. It's a new team. It's a new quarterback. And none of the new quarterbacks.
And Pittman was out. Great. That's a real,
he's their only outside threat.
Yeah, exactly.
If he's down, it's Naeem Hines. That's who they were trying to get the ball to in space today.
Yeah, Pittman's pretty good. That isn't just your average loss. I'm just saying, Matt Ryan. I just want to throw it out there. Week 2 overreaction. Maybe here we go.
Maybe it could have come really quickly.
Somebody's got to throw it out there.
I get it. It's not like it's unwarranted. It's not like it's invalid. Especially.
And he did play decent last week, like you mentioned, Daren. It wasn't. Was he behind? Sure, but a lot of guys still suck when they're behind. It's not.
That's true.
He's been doing it for a long time, and he got beat up towards the end of his career, or end of his time in Atlanta. This was supposed to be his year of football rehab with Frank Reich. So he's still starting the whole rehabilitation process. I would like to give him a couple more weeks before I say that he's done, but it's trending that way. We're almost to the break glass in case of emergency for Indianapolis, and I would say most Indianapolis Colts fans are probably breaking that glass and panicking because I don't know how the only saving grace for them is that their division kind of sucks. And we'll see tomorrow night what the other top team in the AFC South is able to do. It's going to be a tough task for them. And we're kind of jumping ahead. We'll we'll get to that more towards the end of our time. But if you're not able to beat Jacksonville or Houston, how in the hell are you going to beat King Henry and Tennessee?
Well, is there a world where he gets fired? If he loses, like, let's say the next 2 weeks. One of my questions.
Scott Frost treatment.
One of my questions for you guys is going to be who's going to be on the hot seat, and that you were talking about him, and obviously, I don't know if we'll get into the Panthers and all that, but I have obviously their coach and Frank Wright. It's hard not to think, especially after the loss last year to end the season. That's where it's like, it's just a snowball effect, and now you're tying a team, and then you're losing this. So, I'll be interested. I would have had the Cardinals coach on too this week, but I know he got just his contract there. He's but I don't know. Maybe, there's a little bit there. You can't lose the last game of the season to the worst team in the league, baby, and then lose the next 3 possibly to start a season. That's not the way to start. That's just not the way to do it. So I don't know. I'll be interested with Colts fans over the week how they react to that too.
There's going to be a lot of overreaction. I can tell you that the Colts fan base loves to overreact. And I'm sure that this is going to be just adding fuel to that fire. The next kind of major storyline, and I don't know, it was boring up until that point, but the Saints and Falcons finally went to blows. Over the 2 seasons of frustration, the Bucks and Saints. Over 2 seasons of frustration, Tom Brady not being able to beat New Orleans in the regular season, and it comes down to a fight. And Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore getting ejected, and all of a sudden the Bucs woke back up, and they look like a Super Bowl contender again. That defense, we were watching the game today, and that delayed blitz that they have with Devin White is just unfair. The dude is so fast, and he's not blitzing off the snap. He's giving you a full 3 seconds, and he's still getting to the quarterback and making your life miserable. And he forced those 2 bad picks Jameis threw at the end of that game. So I think that it's safe to say, I know we had Jake on last week, and he's a Saints fan, and he was excited that they were able to pull off the hold on to the victory against Atlanta. Jameis ain't that guy. No. He's not the Hall of Fame quarterback that everybody continues to try and push that he is. There's this one guy on.
He loves crab legs.
He does love his crab legs, and he can eat a lot of crab legs when he retires and has to go to Maryland or something, because he's not going to be playing quarterback in the NFL for much longer.
I do want to give him credit for play. Hold on, I want to give Jameis some credit for playing with 4 broken bones in his back. But I agree with you. I've never been a Jameis guy. Even at Florida State, I was like, this guy doesn't do it for me. He went undefeated, and I still no, I wouldn't take him one. I would take Mariota, which was a bad pick also. So
bad year of quarterbacks.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, the Saints and Bucs, their defenses are good. They just have a lot of talent. I love Antoine Winfield's game as a safety. I predicted him to win Defensive Player of the Year last year. I think I might be a year early. I think him and the middle linebacker are just dynamic.
Parson. Devin White.
Yeah, Devin White.
Don't they still have Levante David too? Devin White and Levante David still.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the best linebacking cores in football and has been for the last 3 years.
I just feel like Jameis Winston. He's such high risk, high reward. Like he to me, he's like the definition of like a 10-6. I guess now 10-5, like quarterback on a good year, and then you go and then there's that year where he's throwing just as many picks as he has interceptions, and you're 500 or less. Like today, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. That's just not going to cut it against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. It was interesting, that fight with the Bucs with Evans. You said like it was boiling up over that point. To me, that was still a stupid play by Evans. I know it maybe motivated his team, but he did get ejected from the game. And at the time, it was, I think that maybe the Saints were ahead at the time, possibly still. But I know, I can't remember. It was either tied or right there. And,
I think it was 6-3 at that point.
Yeah, I saw a lot. Yeah, I remember seeing it live there. But the Bucs, they're not looking the same, though. I know you said they kind of got fired up, so maybe next week this kind of gets them triggered and they're motivated again. But they definitely have not looked like they're cooking early on. But it's still early, like you said, with them. But the Saints, a lot of people, I was one of them kind of thinking they could be the upset team. But to me, that goes with Winston. He's going to have games like this. So if you're a Saints fan, there's no way you could overreact to a game like this. This is just what you'd have to expect for him as your quarterback.
Yeah, the last full year that he had as a starter, he was through 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. The only person in NFL history to ever do that. And it seems like that's kind of the way he trends. He's either going to throw you a 60-yard touchdown bomb down the sideline, or he's going to throw it to the middle linebacker because he's just not reading the defense. He thinks that it's similar to what I was saying about Burrow last week with all of the interceptions. He thinks that he's Brett Favre and he has that arm strength, and not many people, if any, have ever had that amount of arm strength to be able to throw it into the windows that he's trying to throw it into.
It's almost like they try to keep the play alive too often. Sometimes
there's a good thing. There is such a thing as a good incompletion. Just throwing it to where you get another player to line up. And I really don't. Not trying to be a real jerk or anything like that. I think that he struggles reading defenses. I don't think that he sees coverages very well. He didn't really do it in college. That was the crazy thing at Florida State. He threw a lot of interceptions, and he was the quarterback when Florida State finally lost out on that streak that they had. So I think that he struggled pretty much the entire time he's been in the league, and nobody's really helped him out. I think Bruce Arians loved using him just because he likes to throw the ball deep, and that's Bruce Arians' MO. But he didn't teach him how to read defenses. He didn't teach him how to go through a progression or anything like that. Or at least that's what it seems like when I see Jameis Winston out there on the field.
Yeah, didn't he throw 30 picks under Arians in Tampa
30
Bay?
touchdowns and 30 interceptions. So either really
I don't think you learned how to play quarterback if you're throwing 30 picks in a season.
No,
Something's not messing.
not at all. I think my flag football kids in the middle school might be able to read a defense better than he can.
Wouldn't be surprised.
It was interesting though how they worked out that penalty. Were you guys surprised that it was only the one ejection on each side and it was one personal foul each way? I would have thought that at some point the referees would have just started throwing people out in fear of something else starting again.
I kind of miss a good old melee there in the NFL. I kind of missed that little part right there. So that was good to have them that there. I'm actually happy with it. I think that was a good decision. I'm very proud of the NFL with that. Like, I don't think they needed to go any farther with it. I think that was good. I was surprised Lattimore even got thrown out. I thought it was just going to be Evans with the cheap shot.
It was. I mean, yeah, the cheap shot. Evans started it and all that kind of stuff, but that was hilarious too. Did you see when they slowed it down? And they go, "What are you gonna do? It's Tom Brady. Like, why is Marshawn? I can't let Marshawn Lattimore get in Tom Brady's face. I'm gonna have to do something." And it's not the first time Evans has been ejected from a game. I didn't even realize that, but he's kind of liable to do this every couple of seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys have a rich history of going at it. These two players, like the last couple of years, they've been fighting basically between every play and just came to a broad. I liked what they did also. The one guy, I think it did enough to got it to stop the fighting in between every play, and they got rid of the two guys who were probably the most at fault.
Let's not turn it into the NBA too much here. Let's not. We don't want to be ejecting everybody here on everything here. So,
and Cameron Jordan's one of the guys that are trying to pull people out of the pile. When Cameron Jordan's voice of reason, he's like, then I should probably calm down here. Maybe I am taking this a little bit too seriously.
That's a good Berkeley boy.
Yeah,
it's a good Berkeley boy.
Almost
all of the NFL top 100 that I see on him is just that he talks nonstop. So when he is the voice of reason, I will say that it's probably time to say that you've gone too far. Let's wrap up some of the other games real quickly from the early slate. The Browns not going to be 2-0. Still, since 1993 was the last time that happened. The Jets get the 1-point victory, and Flacco is back in the win column as an NFL starting quarterback. I think this is what's going to happen with the Browns. They're going to be up and down because everything that's happened. I mean, they have the worst amount of karma built up against their entire team. So good for them that nobody got massively injured so far up onto the season. But I don't think that they're going to cruise through this 11 weeks where Deshaun Watson is not going to be their starting quarterback. Even though I hate that he gets the chance to be, they're still just holding out hope, trying to wait for him to come back.
But I thought their defense was a big bad defense. What happened? You can't you let Joseph Flacco get the best of you. You can't let that happen, do you? I mean,
I don't. Did you see that fade route to Wilson? The fade route to Wilson in the end zone where nobody covered him. I don't.
He had 5 yards on a 2-yard.
If I was a Browns fan, I would be. I mean, I was a Raiders fan, but if I was a Browns fan, I'd be pissed. You lost to the Jets. I mean, even with the backup quarterback in there, you have the lead there at the end of the game. Come on, you can't. I mean. You can't be feeling like that's 2-0 right there.
Why did Nick Chubb go down? If he goes down, they win. But he runs into the third touchdown.
Go down a few years ago? I feel like he made a smart decision like that a few years ago.
I don't know, but he didn't go down this year. It cost me in fantasy, so F him.
I think that there was. I mean, this was. we're showing the comment here, not covering the spread. I think there was a lot of teams that ended up not covering the number that they were given, and I know one of them very well. But I will say before we get to that, the Lions this was the first time in I think 15 or 16 games that they were the betting favorite. 24 games. They were the betting favorite, and they won, and they covered the number that they would have had to. So the Lions get a big win, and Dan Campbell no longer has to worry about possibly going 0-17 again. I think that's what has been a big contributing factor for most of his play calls. The Bengals were the team that I was talking about, didn't cover the spread. They had 7 points. They were a 7-point favorite today. Never had the lead once, only tied it at the end of the game and then lose on a last-second field goal, which is just poetic justice for the way that the last 2 weeks have gone for the Cincinnati team. The offense, not there. The offensive line, Niko likes to troll me on our podcast account. He retweeted the freezing cold take of Lyle Collins landing in his press conference saying Joe Burrow's got a new bodyguard in town. So that's the level of that's the level of support I get in my podcast relationship. Is that's what is being retweeted on our podcast account. 12 sacks through the first 2 games. I think that's where we got to start with this Bengals team. 12 sacks.
Oh, yeah.
2 games.
I mean, we talked about before the game, right? Or before the season. That's what it is, for sure.
Yeah, they revamped that O-line, but it hasn't gotten any better. Like,
Just
it's
a
the
waste of
same
money at this
fucking
point.
thing. Is it Joe Burrow at this point, maybe a little bit? Like, get rid of the ball? Is the O-line, like, the Pro Football Focus numbers and all that stuff just that bad?
I think it's a scheme because they were leaving Micah Parsons as the unblocked person in their pass protection, or maybe the
Genius
tackle.
idea.
Yeah, or maybe it was the tackle just deciding, hey, I don't want to get beat by Micah Parsons again, so I'm going to pretend like I don't see him. But either way, it needed to get sorted out, and it didn't get sorted out the entire game. And then he was rushing up the middle, up between the center and the guards, and those guys were avoiding him too. So not only are they not stepping up and protecting Burrow, they get scared after they get whooped on a little bit, and they totally disappear. I will say Burrow hasn't played great. He hasn't played to the level that anybody was expecting him to. But he's got all of the help that people thought he was going to have. He doesn't. That offensive line's awful.
I thought the Cowboys did a good job, though, on Mixon. I thought they really focused on probably getting him stopped this game. It seemed like they seemed like they did a good job with him in the game. And even on the Bengals, I saw they tried a few early screens, and the Cowboys did a good job of containing those as well, I thought. And so you could tell that was probably part of their game plan. And then obviously, Higgins got on the board there with the touchdown, but chasing them, there was no big plays out there. And so that's got to be the disappointing part if you're a Bengals fan, is like last year, the season, they were so electric at the end of the year offensively. Right now, even with the offensive line, they were still getting big plays. So that would be the disappointing part if I was from the Bengals side. But I still think that you guys have big plays. Like, even as an 0-2 team, I have one of my questions would be what 0-2 team could bounce back? I mean, the Bengals would be one of them to me. I just feel like the division's not unreal. There's it's still there with teams. I don't know, and they have the most offensive firepower, I feel like. So I don't know. I'm trying to make you feel a little better here. I still think you got a little time left.
I appreciate that, but here's what I'm going to say. There's a stretch of the season where they go to the Steelers to play on Sunday Night Football. They go to Tennessee in a rematch of the divisional round game. They go they host Kansas City in a rematch of the AFC championship game. And that's, I think, weeks 11, 12, and 13. So right in the pivotal point of the playoff race. And you got 3 teams that are just breathing down your neck, waiting for a chance to get even with you. So
you guys got it.
If we can go 0-2 against the damn Steelers and oh man, who did we even lose to today? I can't even think. The Steelers and the Cowboys. If we can go 0-2 to those 2 teams and then beat the Steelers, the Titans, and the Chiefs simultaneous weeks, I will take it. I will take all of the terrible football that I've seen for the last 2 weeks. I will take it if that's the trade that I had to make. If that's the sacrifice, I'm good with it.
All right, we'll see. They got to bounce back here. Big week. I expect the offense to tune it up here a little bit.
It is a revenge game because last season this was the Mike White debacle that everybody gave me shit for, was the Jets going and and basically doing what the Cowboys did to the Bengals today. The Bengals always lose to one backup quarterback a season, sometimes more than one. But I guess this year, Cooper Rush gets to be the first one. I wish it was Ben DiNucci. I'd feel a lot better if it was Ben DiNucci.
Oh, God, I don't want to say that name. That's too tough for me. It's too
DiNucci the Gooch. Yeah, that was. Tyler, I think you're on mute.
You've never sounded better to me.
Second dick. with the Cowboys defense, it's really legit. Like Diggs has his big playbook moments, but with Parsons and Lawrence, and they have a front seven, and they've contained a Bucs offense that hasn't shown much, and I guess two offenses that haven't shown much that were supposed to be good, but they were part of not letting them show much. So I don't know. If the Cowboys defense is lit, I don't think with Cooper Rush they're going to do anything, but the defense seems like it's going to give teams problems all year.
Oh, yeah.
And Dak was involved too. So, they're going to get Dak back at some point, and if they can hold themselves steady, it's the NFC East. Anybody can win the NFC East at this point, I would say, because there hasn't been one team that stood out really at that point, and I would say still no team has really taken the lead in that division. The next game that we'll talk about, let's talk about the Broncos, and it was not pretty, but that's going to be, I know that's the first thing that Niko's going to say when we go to record our episode that you guys will be able to hear on Wednesday. It doesn't have to be pretty if you win, and I am so very upset that this is, again, it's like when we first started the podcast. It was Niko getting a win, the Bengals getting embarrassed, and we would just have to sit here, and Niko would be like, listen, I know it's Teddy Bridgewater, and he's wearing his two gloves. I know, but these guys, they know how to win ugly, so they should be able to win games. And I really don't. I didn't see anything that encouraged me that they fixed their mistakes from Monday night, because the Monday night game was awful, and today seemed even worse with the clock management or lack thereof that you got to see from the stupid Nathaniel Hackett and all those. It was bad. It was a bad game.
Needs to take a time management class. What is going on here? And play some Madden or something. Maybe I feel like just that would help him alone. Just some Madden at night, get used to understanding the clock flow and management. Some of the decisions he makes there, you're like, what the heck? That doesn't make any sense at all. Hey, they at least got Judy involved. Or no, Sutton, right? It was Sutton that had the big game.
It was Sutton. Judy got hurt early, so it ended up being Sutton.
Yeah, Judy, you're right. Sutton was the one that had a big game. We talked about I was a little worried about their receivers kind of going into the season and see if they can break out a little bit. So maybe he's the guy Wilson kind of finds the connection with, like he had with Lockett with Seattle. Maybe there's a little breakout there. Maybe he has a little connection with him going forward. Nothing else really with the Broncos. It's the Texans. They just have no offense, and they just can't do anything.
Yeah. Well, that was the crazy part why it was so close, because the defense was playing well. And that's, I guess, the question too. This offense has looked so bad, but they've been nailed out by the defense in 2 straight weeks, because in the second half of that Seattle game, they're the ones that kept it close. And today, if it wasn't for the defense playing the way that it did, I think the Texans could possibly run away and make that a very embarrassing home opener for Russell Wilson in a Broncos uniform. But I wouldn't say that this defense is solidified, and especially without Justin Simmons early on, it looked like it was going to be a rough day. I don't know what you thought, Tyler, but I thought that the Broncos defense still needs to show quite a bit more to be taken as seriously as people have been saying.
Yeah, they haven't really gone up against any offense that particularly scares you at anywhere on the field, like both teams they played, the Texans and who they play on Monday night, the Seahawks. I guess DK can be dangerous. I think it all goes back to what is going wrong with Russell Wilson. This guy, you gave up so much for him. This is what you're getting, the guy who Drew Lock type play from the quarterback position. That's the concerning part to me. I was expecting this offense with Williams, Judy, Sutton, Alfredo, and Russell to be able to move the ball a lot better.
But Niko's going to come on their podcast and say they won the game. You know what I mean? That's the thing. My Raiders, it doesn't matter. They won. They're 1-1.
But it does matter at some point. You can't play this bad against teams that aren't.
Early on, just get the W. If you're 2-2 in September, right? That's what I would think for a team like the Broncos that are just getting a new quarterback.
The benchmark is 3-1. The benchmark is 3-1 is what people are looking for through the first month.
And I heard you emphasize this on your last podcast, though, about the preseason. And you mentioned how the Broncos specifically didn't really play a lot of their guys. So maybe there's a little point to that, too. Like, maybe the preseason doesn't matter, but you were more talking about, like, this the pregame, the routines of things, kind of getting used to that kind of stuff. And maybe there's a factor with that, too. First home opener. I'm curious to see as the season goes on but Wilson's teams have always kind of been like this a little bit. They're like come down to the wire like at times.
Not in September. Normally they put up 45 and then it falls off at the end of the year. In September it's normally lights out.
This is when he's always normally in the MVP conversation, but it is strange to see how awful. I mean, I would go back to that preseason thing. That's why the Broncos had no timeouts left with 7.5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, because they had 1 4th down where he couldn't figure out whether or not he wanted to go for it or kick a field goal. You try to send the field goal unit out there, you get a delayed game, so you end up having to punt it away. and I will go back to the decision to kick a 64-yarder in Seattle. Nobody has kicked longer than a 57-yard field goal in that stadium. at Lumen's Field, nobody's kicked farther than a 57-yard field goal and has actually made it. So this entire – maybe it's just the first-time head coach jitters, and he'll probably figure himself out. I think that he has to kind of shorten – he's trying to be too smart, because the way that the time that it takes them to get in and out of the huddle, it's almost like they're saying 15 different phrases for their play calls. That's the only explanation that I can come up with, or none of these guys actually picked up the playbook over the offseason. So he's having to explain, you're running this route, you're running that route, this is what we're doing here. I'm going to set the projection this way, all in the huddle, and then you end up getting up to the line of scrimmage. You got 5 seconds to snap the ball, even at home. That was hilarious today. Did you guys hear the crowd started counting down the play clock?
Yeah, that was the best part of the game. They started counting like 3, 2. I was like, what the hell is going on out there?
Niko,
I will say this about Broncos fans, though. I don't like to say much. I give them credit. They are a very knowledgeable fan base, though, in that regard. There are things like they are a very annoying fan base, kind of like at times. But I do understand that they are. Like, I appreciate them today. What was it? I think with the decision that we were talking about Hackett made, they let them have it. They were booing them big time when they had that 4th down play and stuff like that. So I like that kind of stuff with it over there. So that was good.
Do we want to address this from Logan? He thinks that Cooper
Is that
Rush
a real picture of Logan, by the way? Is that actually a real picture?
I would say. I mean, maybe.
Simply put, I'd go with no.
Okay.
President Cooper Rush to get 7 Super Bowls.
If I don't know who your friend is, Logan, but maybe we should stick to baseball and stick to the 7th inning stretch, which everybody can hear on the Variety Sports Network.
Great podcast.
It is a great show. I wish that we had your co-host on so that we could talk to him about what the Indianapolis Colts need to do, Logan. We need to get Josh on at some point so we can talk to him about his team. The 49ers, the other game that took place in the late window. We'll get to the Raiders here. I'm saving the Raiders for last. 49ers, 27-7 victory. Trey Lance does go down. Jimmy Garoppolo comes back, and in a strange situation that could have been quite Shakespearean. Yes, that is a Bengals jersey, by the way. Yes. And a Bengals hat, too, if anybody was serious.
Not the Giants.
Tyler, we got your initial thoughts at the beginning, but Daren, what do you think the 49ers and this divisional matchup? They get the win. They're 1-1. Missed that 0-2 bug that everybody's trying so hard to avoid. Didn't look great, though, and I don't know how much confidence it would give me knowing that Trey Lance is now down, and that's the future of your franchise, and you still have to figure out what you're doing moving forward.
I think for the win, like Seattle. Okay, that's the Seattle I was expecting. So that's the offense I'm expecting 90% of the year from them. That's the team I'm expecting.
Do you think Geno Smith's going to write back yet?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think so. That's kind of what I expect from them right there. The Niners, it was kind of a ho-hum win, I feel like. Just whatever. Just kind of taking care of business type of win. Nothing too special. It's all about the QB, dude. That's all. It's the drama there. The Niners nobody produces drama like the quarterback. Even if they're not even trying to, they always produce drama there. Lance goes down. I think Tyler said it best in a tweet, actually. I'll give you credit for it. You said it might be better for the team now, but it's not better for the franchise long term. that's an interesting way to kind of look at that because Jimmy G goes out, has a solid game. They look like he didn't miss a beat in some senses. You're going to play that low-scoring affair. Debo will get tons of touches, probably run the ball a lot more than he wanted to. I don't know.
Get all that yak.
I just feel like for this year, I mean, this is kind of – I mean, there's no way that the Niners have a great defense. They can still make the champion. I still think they can go to the Super Bowl. I don't think that's
I don't know if I know that you're probably aware of this, Tyler. I don't know if the fans are aware of this season-ending ankle surgery for Trey Lance. So not only is he done for today, his season is over. So it is going to be Jimmy G for the foreseeable future unless they do figure out. I really don't know what the strategy is.
It's career changing for him. He's never going to have a full just shot where he's going to be the quarterback for 10 games like he would have been this year. Now, next time he comes back, he'll probably get the starting job maybe if Jimmy hasn't won a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. But he's never going to get that full free shot like he had today. And the biggest change was the play calling immediately changed when Jimmy came in the game. They actually threw the ball. Like, they ran 12 of the first 15 times. All of it was screens. The offense just looked like the announcers were like, oh, how much of the playbook are they going to have to throw away? It looked like they added pages as Jimmy came into the game and they opened up even
the playbook
more.
Better. Yeah. Maybe
and it's for this year, I think the Niners are better off. But the franchise got worse. They gave up 3 first-round picks. So if that pick doesn't work, you're going to be worse than you should be.
I mean, he should be back next year, right? I mean, it's ankle. It's not ACL.
Yeah, but is he any good? We still don't know.
I mean, Jimmy G's not going to steal the job from him. I mean, he'd have to win a Super Bowl, I feel like, for him to be the quarterback next year. So I still think Lance is still secure there. Like, how about your Andrew right there below? He said Trey's injury saved the season, the Niners season. That's kind of the big. It's hard to not think about that with the Niners. Like, he's a veteran quarterback. He took him to the Super Bowl. You could tell the players were rallying around him. Not very often in a locker and during a game do you have the whole team start slapping him on the back like that when he throws a touchdown, like kind of making a point there. I don't know. I'm kind of interested to see what happens here. Like you said, just like riding a bike again. Get those Subway commercials cranked out again, baby. We're ready to go.
Your favorite Greek is Jimmy will put out.
Yeah, he is Greek. He's Grecian, not Italian. I'm gonna make sure that is common knowledge. All of the adult stars in Silicon Valley, lock your doors because Jimmy G is back.
One quick thing you brought up Shanahan and losing these games as a Giant. It still came down to players not executing play. Like if Tart intercepts that ball and if Jimmy makes that damn pass, we all forget about 28-3 when it comes to Kyle. There's just these plays, and you're right. And there still is that black stain that everyone sees first.
The reason that 28-3 existed because he just decided not to run the ball.
But where the hell is the head coach? Tone him down. Slap his
The head coach is the defensive coordinator in Dallas right now, so the entire situation got blown up after that. And Dan Quinn made my life hell today. So yeah, that's where he was. That I don't know. That's just where I'm sitting because, like I said, watching that Super Bowl against the Chiefs, and I was rooting for the 49ers because I really didn't want to see Kansas City to get a Super Bowl in that situation. I wanted to see Juszczyk and Bosa get what they wanted. Yet 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and nothing ever changed. It was bad.
Yeah, that 3rd and 15 to Hill that just broke their back. Sad game. A lot of sad Niner moments lately. What?
What do you think, Jimmy and Ty, kind of like people just ripping on Shanahan for the running the Lance thing? I mean, he was getting like just massacred.
What else are you gonna do with him? Like,
I don't know. I just thought it was funny. I'm just curious to get your thought of it as
that goes back to this comment is that that's the reason he runs so much is because he's played so little football since he graduated high school that what we were talking about with James not being able to read defenses, this kid has never had to read a defense. He's always had one read, and if it's not there, you're the most athletic kid on the field. Go run.
Bigger, faster, stronger.
And he's not anymore. And he's learning that the hard way. He's going to be under anesthesia getting ankle surgery tomorrow. So,
like, if I say all this stuff about Trey, I get these mean tweets at me. I get labeled a Niner hater. I don't care about the team. And I agree with you. You could tell the team was better. Like, it was weird. Like, Trey, those first 4 quarters against the Bears, he looked terrible. And then the first quarter looked like the same thing. I don't know if it's Shanahan just not trusting him, not calling plays, but if that's the case, then something's wrong with Trey where he doesn't trust him.
I don't think that he's the only coach that doesn't necessarily trust their quarterback. He's just been in the biggest situations. He's the only coach good enough to get into the playoffs and be on the verge of Super Bowl contention while still
With
not
these
trusting
quarterbacks.
Yes. I think that's the only thing that you can say about him. And I've talked about his run scheme, and he is one of the best coaches of this generation. And that whole coaching tree, I mean, Shanahan, LaFleur, McVay, now McDaniel in Miami. It all
Taylor
seems
part
like
of that?
I'm not going to count him because he's not as good at calling plays as the others. I can't put him in the group because then I'm just showing how bad he is comparing him to those.
That's
guys.
fair. That's good.
He was the best college player out of the bunch. How about that?
He was in the Super Bowl last year, so he did get hot for a couple of games at least.
Yeah, and then he totally forgot how to coach.
Fair enough.
That's all
You watched more of the games than I did, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I wish I didn't. I wish I could not. I wish I could talk myself into not watching. Might make my Sundays a little bit more enjoyable. Daren,
Yeah, watching your own team is torture. It's like literally putting yourself, like watching NFL is like, don't care who wins, greatest sport ever. You watch it and you care who wins, you're like, oh, this is effed up. This is a terrible call. This is.
why do I put myself through this? Yeah.
Yeah, why am I doing this every Sunday?
Speaking of which, Daren, your Raiders
Torture.
didn't show up for the second half. Did they forget? Like, it's a 60-minute game, not a 30-minute game.
It's a common theme with the Raiders. We all remember the last game of the season last year. I mean, does anybody do it better? I mean, they literally ended the season on something just like this, right? The team needs to get a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. They literally do it with no time left. I mean, no team is just dumber at times in situations like this. No, they just can never complete games defensively. They have him down for a sack. He escapes it. Then he's running around for 50 seconds and he gets a touchdown, for goodness sakes. I mean, it's frustrating as a Raiders fan because there's literally every time they have a lead, I'm literally just thinking, okay, either the other team just be so stupid that we are allowed to just throw it to us. Please just throw it to us, or just commit so many dumb penalties, or just be like the Chargers and we can maybe win a game. Like, there's really no hope. I mean, you guys, like Tyler's like, oh, just make a play. He was running around for 20 seconds, for goodness sakes. How can you not allow him to, he had to run 25 yards. Somebody break off your damn player and tackle him. I mean,
where's Where's Max Crosby?
He was on his back, couldn't bring him down.
Where's the man QB spy? Where is what are we doing here? This is like, Murray is the best. He might be the best pickup player, though, in terms of just, if he starts getting out of the pocket and it's crazy time like that, and it's just pure scramble mode, and the Raiders are tired. I mean, it was just a frustrating effort. And the thing that pisses me off too about the game is Derek Carr. I tried to have his back going into the year, and he's been like how I've always said he's been. And the people that have said he was a top 10 quarterback, I mean, you got to be feeling very nervous these next few weeks, because there's no way he's top even 15 at this point right now. That's terrible.
He does have the best eyeliner or guy liner that's worn at all times in the NFL. I mean,
guy liner.
That's what it looks like. I mean,
definitely does.
And he also made his voice way deeper. He's ever since the Raiders were on Hard Knocks, I just can't. He's one of the cringiest guys that I think plays in the NFL. I can't really stand him.
I can't either.
I liked him during that season where he was close to winning the MVP. I was kind of on his side there. After that, it's kind of just been totally different.
How is Devontae Adams only catch 2 balls? Like, that's where I'm like, this guy runs the Christmas cleanest routes in the league. He's always open, and you complete 2 passes to him. Something's not right.
Sucks. The Raiders' offensive line sucks. It's not very good. It's not very good.
Well, why'd they cut Leatherwood if they suck so bad?
Well, he was part of the second. He was part of the
captain. Mark Davis is broke.
He wasn't very good there either.
The Raiders and Bengals should just combine offensive lines.
And then Renfro fumbled on 2 consecutive plays. I mean, what is unreal? The Raiders guy before that, he made a nice couple safety hits from the Cardinals guy there on 4th down. He lit up that guy. That was that was a great play. He actually made a nice play on third down. He was from the Patriots. I forget, Brannon or something. And then, but that hit that guy made from the Cardinals. I mean,
Simmons?
that was just a game changer, literally. That was an unreal hit there. So it's hard to argue that play right there.
I remember arguing. It was Derek Brown. Derek Brown was drafted the pick before Isaiah Simmons to Carolina at 8.
Okay.
Isaiah Simmons went 9 to Arizona, and that was. I remember arguing with so many people like, "Well, no, you need interior defensive lineman." I said, "No, you need a generational defensive player." Isaiah Simmons is that. Like, Isaiah Simmons was Kyle Hamilton before Kyle Hamilton, and those 2 plays that he made towards the end of that game, I think that solidified me that he is that kind of dude.
Simmons is like the what's it called when you get bigger and stronger of Thomas Davis. Like Thomas Davis came into the league, who was the Carolina Panther, as a safety, and Florida State came in, played linebacker, cored up with Kuechly by his side. And this Simmons guy is just like the same breed, but bigger and stronger and even faster.
Yeah, way faster, way faster. It's kind of unreal to watch this guy play. He got out there. He was in the middle of the field, and he got out to Renfro and still made sure that he put his shoulder pad right on the ball. And then also, I don't know why anybody didn't get up and try and chase down the guy who picked up the fumble. It kind of just seemed like everybody was hoping and praying that he was down, and he wasn't down. And that's where it sucks to be a Renfro fan, because coming out of college, coming out of Clemson, that's what everybody said, is he's not big enough. I know that he's a Wes Welker, Julian Edelman type. He's been more than a slot receiver in his time. He's been more than a slot receiver in his time as a Raider.
Yeah, he's been great.
You can't get in these situations with these big, fast, athletic safeties, because Isaiah Simmons is listed as a safety and expect to be,
And it's Carr, though. Carr just checks it down all the time. He never throws it deep. They made 2 passes over 20. They tried 2 passes over 20 yards the whole game. 2.
And you have the best receiver in the NFL, or one of.
2 passes over 20 yards.
They have a top
Jimmy
3
G
tight
probably
end.
made at least 3 attempts over 20 yards. Are you kidding me? For goodness sakes, it's ridiculous.
They only
Jimmy G
threw it
really
to Darren
pushes
Waller
the ball.
once.
Yeah, exactly. It was just a bad game all the way around.
Niko knew. I mean, Niko and I had experienced McDaniels as a head coach before, and this is very similar, except for the fact that he started 6-0 as the Broncos head coach, and then lost it from there. But it's similar play calling, it's similar game management. It feels very, very similar. So it's unfortunate for you, but we've been through it before, and that's kind of where Josh McDaniels is at.
I do feel a little better, though, so thank you for letting me know.
There you go. Now we can move on to a game that none of us get to care about, and that was the renewal of the Packers-Bears, quote, rivalry, end quote, if you can call it that anymore. Aaron Rodgers flexed his key to the city again, even though it's not an Aaron Rodgers-esque performance, but he did go 19 of 25, 234 yards, 2 touchdowns. Packers win 27-10, only 3 points in the second half, so that maybe that's where the apprehension comes in with this team. But it was a bounce-back victory. They did get back in the win column, and what we said about the Chicago Bears last week being the worst 1-0 team in the NFL was proven true. Outside of that first offensive series, because Fields and that offense for Chicago looked great.
Yeah, they actually did.
Everything that we said was spot on last week.
It was bad. It was bad. I saw the first stat, obviously, before we came on here. It just looked like Rodgers was – and the NFL does this every year. They put these terrible games on. It's going to be a blowout beforehand. I mean, I just don't know what they're thinking with this game. They show what they are. The Bears' offense is going to struggle the whole year, like we said. They did have that great drive to start. I will say that was actually a pretty good drive. They ran the ball a little bit, but I mean, other than that, they just don't have the weapons. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think they get 4 wins? Do you think they get 4 wins?
I don't think. No, probably not.
Isn't there some guy there's a guy on the network here that's a Bears fan. He does that. So yeah, come on. Yeah, he's
Text it in the group chat.
Yeah, I was just saying. Boy, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it comes down to when they started looking bad. It's when they got off their opening play script. Every team has a first 15 plays that they know they're going to run, and that's the plays that you practice in during the week. And after they got out of that, after the first series and a half, that team just doesn't have it. And they got lucky 2 weeks ago playing in a monsoon. That never happens. And, took advantage of the situation, got the first victory. Today they tried to do the same thing, but once they got off script and the talent of the Green Bay Packers came through, this is a very young roster for Chicago, but they're not built to go. I think 4 wins is probably their ceiling. They're going to be in the top 5 of the draft next year.
Can we get into a player real quick? Just your guys' thoughts on him in general. Aaron Jones. Like, he has no spectacular seasons, but the guy's, like, per rush numbers and, like, every time he touches the ball, he looks like he's unreal. But, like, you look at his stats and it's like 1,104 yards is his career high for a season. What type of, like, is he, when he plays, is he top back? Or is he just, I don't know. I don't know what to make of him. The average is over 5 yards per carry for his career, which is, like, 4th all time among running backs.
He seems to make plays when they need him, but it's not every time that they need him. He makes clutch plays in big moments, but every time that they need a clutch play, that it's not like they can rely on Aaron Jones to make that play. So I would say he's definitely above average. He's a guy that you could keep around, and the draft value that you picked him at makes him worth kind of having on your roster, but he's not the guy.
Is he on a contract yet, though? I think he signed a contract.
I think he did. I think he re-signed, so the value, I think, is going down. But then, honestly, if Green Bay didn't re-sign Aaron Jones, that offense would be relying on A.J. Dillon, Marquez Valdez, or not even Valdez-Scantling, A.J. Dillon, Lazard, and Christian Wilkins. So I think they were kind of backed themselves into a corner, especially after Devontae left. So that's where I see Aaron Jones.
It's just the number of 5.1 yards per carry. I'm like, that's like generational, like all-time great. But you watch him, you're like, this guy's not all-time great. But yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to know what you guys thought of him, Daren.
I'm with Jimmy on that. I just feel like he's, I just see somebody that's like kind of your usual solid running back, not like you're necessarily a game changer in that regard. So yeah, I think
he's got some sweet shades on the sidelines.
Yes, he does. There's nothing to hate with an Aaron Jones. I would want an Aaron Jones on my team. Let's put it that way. He's
the mini version of Jamal Williams.
Yeah. There you go.
He's just not quite as big, but very fun.
Better than Jamal Williams, though, right?
He is better than Jamal Williams, but like very fun interview and fun personality. Good locker room guy.
They were on the same team, actually. I know.
Yeah,
now that I think about it.
That's true. Huh?
Yeah. And it worked out the way that it worked out. I will say that Rodgers, he probably the Packers, and the Packers receivers too. They heard loud and clear what needed to happen without Rodgers calling them out directly. But everybody knows he's the worst guy at hiding his emotions or how he really feels.
Daren said, no one's surprised by what happened tonight. It just there's a script for the Packers.
It's very predictable.
They have a bad week one. They did it last year. They're going to win 12 games minimum. Or maybe not, but I think they will still. We'll see.
Are they still the team? Because we were kind of out on them as the team to win the AFC North or NFC North. Are we back in saying that they're going to be beating the Vikings, because that's the only other team that I can think of for that division and winning the NFC North?
I'm back. I never left the Packers. I don't trust Kirk Cousins. I'm going to take a Rodgers-led team over a Cousins-led team any year.
I think the Vikings still definitely have a shot. I'm not
saying they don't have a shot, but I would take the Packers if I was to bet.
No, I like the Vikings still.
Well, that's a good segue to kind of wrap up the show here. And before we do, let's mention once again, we are presented by the Variety Sports Network. And through the Variety Sports Network, we want to mention once again, you should check out AAA's Treats. You get 10% off your order when you mention VSN when you place your order on Facebook. So go to AAA's Treats Facebook now, place your order. You can also get 15% off when you go to row1brand.com. Anything and everything in the art gallery. 15% off when you use code VSP15. I think they said 10%. That's gone up to 15% when you use code VSP15. And that brings us to, since we are the Sunday night show, we get to predict the Monday night game. And this week, we're lucky enough that we have 2 Monday night games. So let's start with the Vikings and the Eagles, because we were just talking about Minnesota and we were talking about their division, NFC North, with the Packers. Going to Philadelphia, and Philadelphia used the hell out of A.J. Brown. I would say they made the Titans regret every single part of letting A.J. Brown go. So what are we feeling for this Vikings-Eagles matchup? 1-0 teams, 2-1-0 teams. Philly's favorite, 2.5, and the over-under right now is sitting at 50.5. So is there anything that we like about this game?
It's kind of an intriguing game. I'm kind of interested. I'm going to go with the Vikings to win this one. I think I like the Vikings to pull this one. I think the Eagles I know are like kind of like that team that's kind of new and like kind of like the Dolphins. Kind of, I think everybody kind of wants to kind of attach to a little bit. I'm kind of hesitant to jump on yet. Hurts is definitely a lot better than I really ever thought he'd be out of college. Getting the Brown edition really helped him for sure. I do like the Vikings to win this game though. Cousins might not be the best quarterback, but like he's got to be better than like we're talking about like a Carr, right, or something like that. So he's in this level. Then he's got really good receivers too. He's been on the team forever. I'm a huge Cook fan. I like their defense too. I like Smith in the back there. He's always running around, just making things miserable for teams. They allowed 7 points to the Packers last week on defense. I'm gonna take the Vikings on this one.
I'm interested, Tyler. What are your feelings on the Vikings Eagles?
It'll be a good game. I think it's gonna be close. But I'll go with the Eagles. AJ Brown looked like a machine. Like he looked like I don't know who he was out there. I've never seen that AJ Brown. Yeah, he had games, which is only one game. But like I was like, man, this guy is unstoppable. He kind of reminded me of like Brandon Marshall in his prime. This is run after catch and whatnot. Like he was so big.
Yeah.
And then it's all about how like Miles Sanders is used. If he gets the ball and he's making plays, the Eagles are going to be pretty tough to stop. If he's being shut down and you're relying on Jalen Hurts to throw the ball, you're in trouble. But I'm going to take the Eagles.
I'm kind of right there with the two of you. Hurts is doing a lot better, and I never thought that Hurts would be my fantasy quarterback, yet here we are, and he is. So I'm hoping that he does great. But here's the issue that I find with this game, and I don't know if the Eagles have an answer. Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson was the reason the Vikings did what they did to Green Bay last week, and Kevin O'Connell, as the coach for this Minnesota Vikings team, knew how to scheme the Packers defense, which I think is a lot better than Philadelphia. They knew how to scheme him to the point where Justin Jefferson was being covered by a linebacker. So I think they're going to be able to do that again. I think that this one's going to be a shootout. So if I'm going to bet anything, and my co-host is the degenerate gambler of the two of us, but if I were going to bet anything, I would definitely go with the over here because I think it's fun. It's more fun to bet the over anyways. And these two teams scored a ton of points. So 15.5 they would have hit this if you just take their offensive totals from last week. It's Monday night primetime game, and I honestly think the Vikings might come out fast, and the Eagles are going to have to make some sort of a comeback, so that's liable for more points. So I don't know who I'd necessarily – I wouldn't pick any team on the points necessarily, but I would definitely pick the over. I'm going to pick the Vikings to beat the Eagles, though. So, Tyler, you're going to be the lone man there for Philly. But I do think that there's a lot of intrigue for that game.
What's the line? I just
2.5 Eagles.
2.5, yeah. 2.5 for Philly.
Yeah, I'll take the Eagles still.
Yeah, it's the home team bias a little bit there. So that's the second Monday night game, and that moves us to the Tennessee Titans going to Buffalo to take on what everyone has now anointed as the Super Bowl champion Buffalo Bills. This one, a little bit interesting, 10-point spread here. Buffalo's a 10-point favorite. The over-under is set at 47.5. Main point of conversation surrounding the Tennessee Titans last week was Derrick Henry not looking like himself, getting blown back here. I'm going to take that as a compliment, whether it was meant as one or not. So for this Tennessee Titans-Buffalo Bills game, Josh Allen, is he going to have 2 weeks in a row where he becomes the best quarterback in the NFL, or are we going to have a return to maybe that mediocre, middle-of-the-road Josh Allen? Buffalo, they're my pick to win this game. Actually, I'm going to stick with my pick that I made on the podcast. I'm going to go with Tennessee. I think Tennessee is going to bounce themselves back, and Buffalo's not going to play that well 2 times in a row. So I'm going to start things off. I'm taking Tennessee.
Well, if you could pick both, then right, and when you're right on one of the podcasts, you'd be right. You take one of the teams over there. I 10.5. I think it's 10 points. The spread though for Buffalo, that does seem a little high for me. 10 points. I would definitely take the Titans on that edge if we were doing a betting there. I'm going to take the Bills to win it. I think there is a scenario where I do want to take the Titans a little bit because the Titans do play the Bills tough. Henry's the last 2 years has had 100 yards and 100 yards a game and 5 total touchdowns against the Bills. They won that great, I think it was a Monday night game. Yeah, they won the great Monday night game last year against them. The Titans, the thing with the Titans is the reason I kind of want to pick them is because they're coming off that loss, and I think they'll be pissed off. And Vrabel, I believe, is a good coach. And so the Titans are one of those teams where, like, I feel like if you underestimate them, they just bite you in the ass right there. Like, they're just going to get you right there. Like, right. So the Bills I could see getting got on a home opener. We're like,
are you hedging your bets?
They're the home favorite. But I'm going to take the Bills, I think.
All right, Tyler.
I think the Titans they just play these are the type of games they play and win. They lose these games that they should win, like they did last week. They did the Jets last year. They did the Jaguars last year. And they beat the Rams on Monday night last year. They always beat the teams you expect them to lose. And I think having Jeffrey Simmons in the middle of that line is going to make things a little more difficult for Josh Allen to have his game he had last week. So I think I'll take the Titans.
Yeah, there's the defense for Tennessee is better than what Philadelphia played against in Detroit last week and still almost gave up a hellacious comeback. Ended up losing the Lions ended up backdoor covering when it was a 20-point margin of victory going into the fourth quarter for Philadelphia. I know Niko and Hezbollah on our show were very, very upset that the Eagles allowed Detroit to come all the way back and make that thing as close as it did. So or at least we all didn't go 3 for 3 on both games. So Monday night, we're split all over. So next week when we come back here, we're going to have plenty of trash talk, smack talking to get into. I do think that's going to bring us to the end of our show here. So without further ado, you guys want to take control and let people know where they can find your show and everything like that.
Look for us at Fatboy Fadeaway on Twitter. We'll be you can follow us there at Fatboy Fadeaway. Also look for us on YouTube at our over there, our channel there. Also at the Variety Sports Network. We're on all those platforms as well there. So Luke just did episode 104 today. Talked a little Nathaniel Hackett earlier. So take a little listen over there to us. And I thought it was funny, Andrew McGurk, I'm the only one commenting right now. It might be time for bed, buddy. That's the sign then if you're the only one commenting. Just
and that's the crazy thing too, is I assume Pacific time, so it's early there still. It's only
9:18 here. It's not that bad. It's not that bad here. But look for us there. That'd be good for us. And
I think I'm going to be listening to your guys' episode 104 on my way into work tomorrow. So obviously check out Daren and Tyler. You can follow Tyler at Tyler McGurk here. I don't know if I spelled that. I tried to spell it.
Yeah,
correctly.
You got it perfect.
There you go. That's why I was a host in college here. That's where you can follow Tyler and get some of his sports takes there. You can follow our show, The Far End of the Bench, at FEOTB Pod on Twitter and Instagram. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're also not only are we releasing new episodes every Wednesday of The Far End of the Bench, we are dropping the Top of the Mountain Show on Fridays, which is our Division II podcast that's also on the Variety Sports Network. So you can listen to myself and Niko on the Far End of the Bench Wednesdays, and then myself and Rev Coca talk about some Division II college football on Fridays on the Top of the Mountain. You can follow the Variety Sports Network at variety_sports_. And as always, like, subscribe, share, tell a friend. This is one of the best independent sports platforms that you can find. And we're all very proud and excited to be a part of them. So this has been week 3 of Talkin The Gridiron. Thank you all very much for tuning in, commenting, and wherever you're listening, watching. Hopefully you have a safe and happy week. And we will be back next Sunday to talk more NFL football.
Peace.
Thanks.